not married. Maybe it's love.
Well, whatever it is, pray that it never gets you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Joy of Pixels podcast for Friday, August 14th, 2020. I am joined once again by the Akko Sambo. How are you doing today, Akko?
I am nearly in a puddle in my room. I need extra drainage. I am walking through the depth of Mordor every single day, but I am alive, and I'm intending to stay alive. So
Well,
I can join you here on the podcast.
only a few more weeks of hot weather, and then it'll start getting a little cooler for you guys.
Who knows how long it takes at this
It's
point.
2020, so who
Hey.
knows?
Hey.
Maybe you wake up tomorrow and it's like 5 degrees.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Welcome to everyone in chat. I hope you guys are doing well. We got a really good show for you today. I'm excited to jump into things. Akko, I see you're sporting a team there. Who's that? Oh, the Red Sox.
Yes, it's my team.
Is that
I
your
don't
team?
own the team yet. But,
Okay. Well,
big plans.
goals. Akko, what have you been playing?
I've been playing Surviving on the Surface of the Sun.
Yeah.
It's great. But aside from that, in terms of video games, I've been playing the huge, as the kids would say.
Huge.
The huge. Continued with Mafia 3. No new insight there, so won't talk too much about it. But then I also started to play Deponia, a nice point-and-click adventure with lots of humor, some fourth wall breaking stuff, and the usual in that regard. But a very fun, very cool art style. I think it is from a German development team once again, and I'm trying to play through the game. It's the Complete Journey edition. So I'm not sure how many games there are. I'm completely blind in those games, but I heard that they are very well beloved. So I wanted to try them out, started with that. We'll continue with that as well as soon as the sun cools down. And
so wait,
and
this is the first one in the series?
Yeah, I guess. So my version is just called the Complete Journey. So I would assume it starts with the first game.
Oh, okay, I got you. Is it like episodic?
No, I think it's just all the previous games put together in one game.
Okay.
But, let me see what the description is exactly.
Is it on PC?
But, it's on PC, yes. I'm playing it on Steam. What does it say here? Okay, it does not include the newest sequel, Deponia Doomsday, but I guess other than that, it has all the games. I don't know how many there are. I try to go into these games as blindly as possible and then educate myself on it afterwards.
And so
it also has developers commentary and all of those.
Oh, that's cool. More games should do developer commentary.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool. I remember Half-Life 2 did that. Or I think maybe they added that when they did episode 1, Half-Life 2 episode 1. And it was super cool to replay Half-Life 2, and they literally had like these little like text bubbles in the game, and like you would go up to them and like click on them, and then it would like discuss about the how they made the game and like how the QA that went into the game and all kinds of funny stories. I thought that was just really cool, and I wish more games would do that.
Yeah, for sure. Especially, I feel like shorter games where you don't have to go through another 300 hours to complete it, but instead, like usually like point-and-click games or even like the Half-Life games are not super long. If you play through them, where you can, if you really enjoyed it, it is worth to just kind of breeze through the game, but get the additional information. I think that's something more games should do.
Yeah. I hear if you listen to all of the audio commentary in Half-Life 2 in the correct order, then you actually unlocked Half-Life 3.
I can confirm that.
So what is the like main what is the story about with this game?
So I really just started, but the main
Okay.
premise is that you are, I think, kind of living on a trash planet, for lack of a better word, and the initial goal is to escape. Our main character wants to get off that planet, go into the free world, and for that he has to come up with an insane plan. We have a living toothbrush because it wasn't taken care of for very well. And other kind of wacky things, but I think the premise is really that you live on this trash planet and try to escape.
It sounds like Wally.
A little bit, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it sounds cool. What else you been playing? Oh, you have Fall Guys on here. You want to talk a little bit about Fall
I
Guys?
played a bunch of Fall Guys.
I played a little bit of this too.
Did one stream of it and did a video on YouTube, but played a bunch on my own. Just super addicting. I even made a spreadsheet about how many times I get certain levels when I get eliminated and qualify, and all of that to just give a little bit of stats to that. So if you're interested in that, I can provide that.
That it's all coming together now. The Out of the Park game. You like all the stats and baseball and everything. Yeah. I'm getting this now. Okay. Yeah. I didn't keep up with my stats. I just jumped in and just started playing some games. But I like it a lot. I think it's really, really fun. I played a little bit on Sunday. We had kind of a community day. I think you did too. And I jumped in and just played a little bit. I didn't play for too long. I played for maybe 30 or 40 minutes. But yeah, it's fun. Like I'm not super into these types of games. I'm not gonna like get, hardcore into it and try and min-max all of the routes and everything like that. But for a party style battle royale style game, it's super fun. It's really addicting. I like how easy it is just to jump in, just play a quick match. The matches don't last very long. And yeah, it seems like that game is doing quite well. I heard that they sold 2 million copies just on Steam.
Yeah.
And of course it's free on PS Plus if you have PS Plus membership. But that is crazy to me that game sold that much on Steam. Like that, they're just.
But I think it is really because it's so easy to just jump in. Like the basic of it is very, very simple. You have pretty much walk, jump, and dash. Like that's the 3 things that you can do. And the premise, very simple: get to the end or survive. And like everyone can play that. Like that is really a game that is suitable for the entire family. Like from a 4-year-old to an 80-year-old, everyone.
It's just so simple.
This.
Yeah.
Yes.
I noticed.
Then, but also I will say though, like after that initial like simplicity, it does create some a nice learning curve where you figure out, oh yeah, if I put some time into this, I can get better in it. It is not just random luck that brings you progress.
Well, I was going to ask you about that because I feel like there is a lot of RNG that goes into it. Do you feel like there's not?
Yes and no. There is to some degree, but I noticed now that like qualifying, aside from the team challenges, qualifying and getting further isn't really that tough after a while, because once you figure out like the some certain strategies for the different mini games and figure out, yes, there's always a certain RNG element to it. I would say it's 80% skill and 20% luck, and those 20% are always active and they can always kick you out. So it's not like it's just a given that you qualify, but 9 times out of 10 on the normal on most.
Don't you mean games, 8 times out of 10? Just
or
kidding.
8 times out of 10 on those normal mini games, you will qualify. Gets a little tougher with the team challenges. I feel like there it's, and that would also be my biggest criticism, that the team challenges add more RNG, because then you have the normal 20% of luck that you have, plus the additional luck of who you're matched together with in the teams, which makes it a little bit iffy. There are some particular issues that I have with a couple of team mini games, but overall, I will say it's not like when I play, I get fairly regularly into the final rounds, and there, yeah, I mean, there you play against the best of those rounds, and kind of have to put on a pretty perfect run to then get the crown. But it's more skill based than it looks at the beginning. I feel like, though, when you start the game, it does feel very random, because things are flying around, you're dropping off things, you're falling over a lot, but after you're playing, you figure out why you fall over.
You kind of learn,
least,
why things are, the
a little
routes
bit
to
more.
things. Yeah.
Again, like there's always a little bit where why did my guy fall over this time? You don't know. But for the most part, you figure out ways to avoid those traps. You figure out ways to get through certain obstacles and to get through the levels. And then it's really about, okay, like winning the different mini games gets a little bit tougher. There is more RNG involved there, but just qualifying, you can do that pretty regularly and pretty consistently, I would say.
The jumping was kind of weird to me. I don't know if you noticed this, or if it was just like a connection issue, like a little bit of lag, but I always found myself like falling off the edge of things. Like I would jump, but it would be too late. My little guy would not make it off the edge of things when I was jumping. Did you run into any of that?
I never really noticed that too badly. There is definitely some latency issues in the game, which becomes more apparent in those team games. But in terms of like the platforming, it always felt fairly accurate.
Maybe I just suck.
And there is something to it that you just have to learn the timing, obviously, when to jump.
Yeah.
And, like,
I mean, I started to realize, like, okay, I just have to press X a little bit early. But I'm terrible at platformers in general. You've been playing anything else? Or is that it?
I don't know. That's about it. Aside from Out of the Park Baseball, if you want to talk.
Let's see. I finished Deus Ex Human Revolution. Man, that's a good game. Very, very, very good game. If you're looking for a really cool kind of slightly futuristic cyberpunk RPG, then wait for Cyberpunk 2077. No. No, this is a really cool game, and this was kind of the reason that I wanted to play it, is because I was really, really wanting to play Cyberpunk, and if in a perfect world we would have already been playing it, but things happen. So I wanted to play this, and it's really well done. The story is really well told. I really like the characters. I feel bad. I kind of rushed through the ending a little bit faster than I would have liked to. But it was mostly just because I was streaming and I just kind of wanted to just finish up the game. But the game has a really good and interesting and satisfying end. There's multiple choices, multiple endings that you can get. Really the only negative to that game is the bosses. And it's really only a negative if you want to go a non-lethal route, because the way the game works is, you can pretty much choose to go really stealthy or just full on in, guns blazing, and then like everything in between that. Like you can still be really stealthy but still kill people and everything like that. I chose to not kill anyone, but the problem is you have to kill the bosses, or you at least have to fight the bosses. You don't also I don't know if they if it really counts as killing them, like as far as the achievement goes. But the weapons and the skills that I had were all for non-lethal. And so when you get into a boss fight and like you have to do damage, it can be very difficult. They try to kind of balance it by like giving you weapons in the areas that you pick up, but it's just, I don't know, it's just like it kind of throws you out of your play style, because you know you're going non-lethal and super stealthy, and then it's like all of a sudden you're in a super fast-paced boss fight with the boss running around shooting at you and you have to shoot back. So that's the only downside, but I mean it's only like there's only maybe 3 or 4 bosses total in this game, and I don't know, that may sound like a negative to some people, but this game is really not about like fighting the bosses and everything. It's much more about the gameplay in general and just the story, and kind of slowly uncovering the story and the conspiracy theories and the mystery behind it. Uh-oh. I just lost Akko. Now I'm all alone. Oh, he's coming back.
Hello?
Hello? Oh.
I don't know. Discord was kind of stuttering for a little bit, and then it just disconnected. But,
Discord is weird sometimes.
yeah.
I was having some really weird issues with it, and I had to switch over to the public test beta for it.
Yeah, sometimes it's just weird, but
yeah.
Please
well,
continue.
You're back. We can always cut that out. That's super easy to fix.
Yeah. We fix it in post. That's what
absolutely. But yeah, Deus Ex Human Revolution. I mean, I would give it like a solid 9 out of 10. It's just a fantastic game, fantastic story. If you like a sci-fi RPG, kind of a immersive sim, I would call it.
Nice.
It really makes me want to go back and play Mankind Divided, which was the sequel. The only thing is, I don't think Mankind Divided is as good. I think the gameplay is probably as good, if not better, but the story is just not there. It doesn't hold up as well as Human Revolution. But some other people were telling me that the original Deus Ex was really good as well. It's a really, really old game, though. I think it came out in 2000. So you got to kind of put your 2000 goggles on to view that game. Let's see. Played Fall Guys. I played a little bit of Deep Rock Galactic with some people in the Discord. You ever played Deep Rock? Or you know what that is?
I have no idea what it is.
It's a really cool game. So it's there's not really any story to it, but it's basically a kind of co-op mining / survival game. You take on missions to mine asteroids. Okay. So you also play as space dwarves. So you have your own character. There's different classes that can do different things. Like one class has a grappling gun that can like shoot and grab things and pull you up to them. There's another class that has like I don't know what you call it, but it's like a gun that can create platforms to climb up on easier. Okay. But it's randomly generated. The levels are randomly generated, and you go into a giant cave basically, and each mission you have a set of objectives like mine 200 of this mineral or collect 15 of this special kind of flower or something like that.
Okay.
And you can kind of manipulate everything in the world. It's kind of like Minecraft. Like you have a pickaxe, and you can just like dig through the walls of things. You can dig through the floor and mine the materials that you're looking for. And then there are enemies that will show up, which are usually just like giant bugs that you have to just kill as they come. And then there's also sometimes there will be like waves of enemies that you'll have to kind of set up a perimeter and take out. Okay. It's a really, really fun, solid game. It's graphically, it's really cool looking. It's a pretty good looking game, especially for like a randomly generated worlds. And then once you do that, you kind of come back to like a base where you have I guess it's like a spaceship that you're on. You come back and there's like a med bay. There's like a little bar that you can drink. There's a little dancing disco area where you can dance with your friends. There's just all kinds of little things like that. Yeah. You can. There's like a little console where you can customize your character and buy like it's all in-game things. I don't think there's any microtransactions, but you can buy like different outfits for your character and customize it. It's really fun, especially if you're playing with people. And the mechanics are pretty deep. It's not just like go here, mine this certain mineral, come back. Like there's a lot of different secrets and hidden stuff in the caves that you don't necessarily have to get, but you can find out about. And you also upgrade your weapons and your mining abilities and everything like that. So it's really fun.
Oh, well, sounds good to really mind your own business.
Absolutely. I also ventured into a whole new genre. I checked out Mortal Kombat 9, which I think is just called Mortal Kombat. I guess it was a reboot of the series. I think you and I have talked about this a little bit, that you and I have never really played any fighting games, but
yeah,
I've always kind of wanted to just try them. And I've always kind of wanted to try Mortal Kombat. And I've heard that, like, especially Mortal Kombat 11 had like a really bizarre story, and a lot of people were talking about the story and saying it was like actually really interesting and fun. And so I was looking at that, and I thought about just getting MK11, but apparently it's kind of the end of a trilogy. 11 is the end of a trilogy, so they rebooted it. It sounds like what?
That's how they get you.
That's how they get you. Well, Mortal Kombat 9 was literally like $4 or something like that. So I picked it up super cheap. But it's actually pretty fun. I was really worried that I was just going to be awful at it, and I mean I am awful at it. But you can turn it down on a low difficulty, and I didn't have much trouble getting through it. I was just kind of mashing buttons. I figured out a couple of abilities that worked pretty well. The story is just like super bizarre and silly and over the top. But from what I played, I only played like about an hour. But from what I played, I actually had a really fun time with it. And I think I want to continue playing it and go through the story. I think the story is like 4 or 5 hours long, so it's not very long to get through.
Yeah.
I don't care about.
Thing about them that you can just turn down the difficulty on easy if you need to, and then just breeze through it too.
Because
get through the cutscenes,
I'm never gonna like be good at these types of games, and I'm okay with that. But if I can just kind of have fun, just mashing buttons and just get through the fights and kind of experience the story that way, then I'm perfectly fine with that.
Yeah, I would definitely be too good at the game that it would be fun, so that's why I stay away.
That's why you have to go online and face all the other opponents.
Yeah, it's too easy. It just isn't fun if you just destroy everyone.
Akko's just too good.
I'm just too good, yeah. Which is something that Luckless hopefully will experience tomorrow when we try out another fighting game, UFC 4, that just came out.
That just came out, yeah.
Yeah, no, today. Came out today. And we will check that out. So that will be some fighting game fix for us.
It's going to be a whole new meta and a whole new world, though. I also played a game called Judgment.
Oh. So what's your judgment?
So my judgment is it's pretty darn good. So this was a game that was redeemed as kind of a reward that one of my viewers. I have channel points where you can redeem games to be played, and one of my viewers chose for me to play Judgment. And this is a game that I've been wanting to check out. This is by the Yakuza devs, which I think you have a little bit of experience with them.
Just a few.
Just a little bit. And I liked it quite a bit. So I played a tiny bit of Yakuza 0. I mean, like maybe the first hour of that game, which that game is really, really slow to start out. So I didn't really like play anything.
Yeah.
But this game, I I think I like it quite a bit. So I was just playing the demo, which is very substantial, by the way. It's like all of chapter 1, which is, I think there's... Have you played Judgment?
I have played Judgment.
You've played it, all of it, and you finished it?
Yes.
So then chapter 1 is pretty long. I think I played like 3.5 hours and didn't even finish the first chapter.
Mm.
But yeah, I like it. I really like the setup of the story. I like the characters so far.
What do you say that how like it always bothered me that he looks like a 50-year-old person in skinny jeans.
Yeah, we were making fun of his skinny jeans.
Okay, good. Good. Just making sure.
I like his hair though.
It's a hair.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I know that the Yakuza games are similar, and I've heard similar, not really complaints, but just kind of comparisons. It's just weird how those games are like, they're semi-open worlds, but then like all of a sudden you just get to the edge of the world and it's like, cannot go here. Just a red wall. It's weird how they design those games. It's also weird like how the graphics sometimes are like incredibly good. Like the facial features are really, really impressive. And then there's some things that are just like, wow, this looks like a PS3 game or something like that. It's just weird how stark the difference is. But I mean, the actual story was really interesting.
Have you played in English or Japanese?
I was playing in English, which I know everybody hated me for doing that. But I was streaming and I was trying to pay attention to chat and read chat, and it's hard to like, if I'm gonna like put it in Japanese, then you obviously have to look at the subtitles and like really pay attention. So it was just hard to do that. But I thought the English voice acting was actually very good.
That's what I heard too. And a little interesting fact there, and that I thought was very impressive. They actually adjusted the lip syncing for the English dubbing. So,
really?
So that the lips are actually in sync with the English dubbing.
I don't know about that. I didn't notice that. I thought the lip syncing was not very good. I mean, I thought it was just dubbed for or synced with the Japanese
They tried to adjust
audio.
it.
I guess they
I
tried.
only played it in Japanese, so I don't know how it is.
It's fine though. Like, I mean, it wasn't super distracting or anything. And I mean, plus, like, there's so much dialogue in that game that must just be like an incredibly difficult task to do that. But yeah, for the most part, I liked it. I didn't really, so I don't think there's any mini games that are unlocked in the demo, so I didn't really get to try out any of those. I know that's a big part of those games. The combat I just thought was okay. Like, I wasn't super into it. I don't know if I can ever really get into that type of combat. But looking through the skill tree, like, it does look really fun. It looks like there's a lot of... I like how big the skill tree is and how many different skills you can unlock, and just how many skills there are. Or not even like skills, but just things to unlock in that game. It looks really cool. So yeah, I think I'm gonna put it on my watch list, and whenever it goes on sale, I'm gonna pick it up and play through that at some time.
Yeah.
Still don't know if I'll ever get into like the whole Yakuza 0 through 6 story. It's just that it's such a commitment. Like when 7 comes out, I am 100% in on 7.
Says the guy who starts the Resident Evil thing. It's like, oh, might as well play through all Resident Evil games.
Those games are like 10 hours long, though.
Yeah, but there are more of them. Almost.
I feel like you could probably play all of the Resident Evil games within the time it would take you to finish Yakuza 0.
Well, but you don't have to like 100% complete it.
Yeah,
You
no,
can
I'll
play
never
through
100%
Yakuza 0
those games.
in a good 40 to 50 hours.
40 to 50 hours, yeah. That's for one game, Mako.
Oh yeah, but you have a good time. Are you complaining that they would give you too much good time?
Yes, it's too much. I can't take it. I need some bad time.
Stick with Resident
Well,
Evil, then.
I feel like Judgment is a really good introduction to that that series. I mean, it is part of the Yakuza. You don't think it is?
No, I don't think so. No, because like I think Judgment, while it's good, it's like it's not as good as the more recent Yakuza games, both mechanically, story-wise, minigame-wise. So it gives you it's kind of like a light version of them, which while it gives you close to the feeling of a Yakuza game, it doesn't really tell because it's like if you say like, oh, Judgment is fine, but if it's not blowing me away, so I'm not really interested in Yakuza, then it's like, yeah, because it's not as good as Yakuza 0. Like that's like, I don't know what the comparison would be, but that is a little. I'm struggling with a different franchise where it would be fitting. It's kind of like similar. I mean, it doesn't really work with Bloodborne because Bloodborne is quality-wise very excellent. But it would, like, if you play Bloodborne and it's not as good as Dark Souls, then it's like, yeah, well, I get it. But Dark Souls, I mean, is very different to Bloodborne.
Yeah.
In every regard.
Maybe more like Sekiro to Bloodborne or Sekiro to Dark Souls.
Yeah, probably more like that. Though Sekiro changed too much of the.
It's a hard comparison.
Yeah, it's a very hard comparison. I guess my point is that Judgment, I really enjoyed it from first playing Yakuza games, but I feel like going the other way around, it gives you kind of a wrong impression. It is almost like it's simplifying what the Yakuza series would be about, or what you would.
Couldn't that
like,
be a good thing though?
Like about,
because like,
well, yes
if you like Judgment, then you're like, oh, I kind of like this game, and then you go into Yakuza and then you're like, oh wow, this is even better.
But then on why start with Yakuza 0 anyway? Like it's
the same reason, because you start with Dark Souls 2, because it's a fantastic game, but it's the worst.
Well, no, but if it's but then it's also if you start with the worst one and you're saying like, yeah, that's fine, but you have no frame of reference of the other ones, does it really compel you to then go through 80 hours per game each game? Or are you then like, yeah, Dark Souls 2 is fine, but I'm not sure if I need another one of those games? And I feel like with Judgment, it would be more like that as an introduction to it, where it's like, yeah, it's fine, it's good even, but it's not really giving you a reason to go through an entire franchise. Whereas like if you play Yakuza 0 and actually play through the first chapter or the equivalent of that, I think you would get a way better sense of what you're getting yourself into and whether you like it or not.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know if I'm ever going to play those games though. They're just so long.
Here, like it is like playing, and that's maybe a little too harsh on Judgment, but if you play Hellpoint as a preparation to going into the Dark Souls game, it's like, oh yeah, it has the same mechanics, it has some similar things, but in the end, it doesn't really convey why Dark Souls is special and Hellpoint isn't.
What is this Hellpoint-like game called Dark Souls?
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. I really do want to. I want to and I don't want to. I want to try out Yakuza 0 again. Possum is saying try out Kiwami, but I mean that's the first game, right? Like you should start with 0, right?
Yeah, you should start with 0 because it's one of, well, it obviously has the pretty much the most modern advancement in terms of like both graphics and gameplay, and it's the prequel, so that's really the perfect place to start, and it's probably the best game.
Yakuza 0.
Yeah.
So I can just play 0 and just never play any other ones, right? That's the best one. Okay.
I mean, yeah, good. if you then can stop after that and don't want to find out what happens in all the other games, sure.
I don't know. There's so many games. So many games. One game at a time. I'm trying to think. I think that's about it. I think that's about all the games I played. Any other games you want to throw out? We had
Really?
we had Mafia 3 Deponia. Is that how you say that?
Yeah, Diplomia.
Deponium, Fall Guys, Deus Ex Human Revolution, Deep Rock Galactic, Mortal Kombat, and Judgments. Let's jump in and mention a few games that are releasing this week. We have Eastern Exorcist for PC coming out today. UFC 4 coming out for PS4 and Xbox One today. Microsoft Flight Simulator coming out August 18th. You going to jump into your plane and fly across the country?
No.
Go over to Boston, watch
restrictions.
a game?
Travel restrictions.
Yeah, that's true. Do you have any interest in these flight simulator games?
No, not really. I mean, I can appreciate for what they are because, like, as far as I know, they are super detailed. But
Yeah.
that's also like I'm not really into like aircrafts and flying in general. So like it's like I think you need to be into flying planes.
Yeah.
To really be into those, and I think then they are perfect and great from what I hear. But it's like not really for me.
I should mention this is on Game Pass, so if you have Game Pass, it's free to install and check out. I kind of want to just download it and just check it out. I'll probably like wreck a 747 or something, but it's a game.
Getting on some list of the series.
No, I wonder if there's like, because I mean, yeah, this is like a super hardcore simulator, but I do wonder if there's like any kind of room in this for like a casual mode.
I don't know. Maybe. Yeah.
I wonder if there's like any you can go to flight school or something like that. I think it could be fun. I could possibly get into that. We also have Mortal Shell releasing on August 18th. I'm definitely interested in that. That's the newish Souls-like game. We're getting a lot of these little Souls-like games. They had a beta a couple of weeks ago.
I'm not sure if I'm into this genre.
Not into the Hellpoint likes. Yeah, this one, I think this one seemed a little bit more interesting than Hellpoint with what it's doing. The environments look a little bit more interesting and just exciting, but yeah, it could go either way. I also heard there were a lot of issues with the beta performance-wise, so kind of curious on how they fix that up. Battletoads is coming out for PC and Xbox One on August 20th. We have some DLC for Frostpunk called The Edge.
The last one, I think, right?
Is that the last one?
Expansion.
Yeah, I think so. Comes out August 20th. Griefhelm for PC comes out August 20th. Pastel Blind Karma for PC on August 20th. Peaky Blinders Mastermind for everything comes out August 20th. Remnant from the Ashes Complete Edition is coming out for PC, PS4, and Xbox One. Also, a quick mention, that game is free on the Epic Games Store. That's a really cool game. Definitely pick that up. We have...
Talking about that, Total War Troy came out yesterday.
That's true.
For 24 hours. I'm not sure if the 24 hours are over right
I
now.
think it is, but yeah, I did grab it. Did you?
Over. I did grab it, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
That
usually now it costs like 45 or so.
Yeah. Full price
new
game.
Addition into the Total War saga, and I mentioned it before when we talked about it that I was always interested in trying them out, but it was always too big of an investment to just for a game where I'm not sure. But now that it's free, I obviously picked it up, and I'm excited to try it out and check it out.
Some of those games are really cool. They're really fun, and you can't beat free.
True.
We have Aokana? Is that how you said it? Aokana 4 Rhythms Across the Blue for PS4 and Switch on August 21st. New Super Lucky's Tale for PS4 and Xbox One. And wrapping it up with PGA Tour 2K21. This is kind of an interesting story with that game. They stopped doing the PGA Tour games for a long time. I think the last one was like 2014 or something. And then I think it was the developers of the Golf Club was the name of the game. They bought them and they had them make this new game, which that's a pretty fun game if you like golfing games. So I'm kind of interested to check that out. But there's also some
fun golfing games. Golf Story on the Switch, a nice little your favorite pixel art, but it's a fun little game that is like it. Yeah, there is a lot of like arcadey golfing going on, but it has lots of good humor. Like actually well-written humor, which I can always appreciate. And yeah, just a fun little story, nice game to play on the side. Can really recommend it on the Switch. I think it costs like $15, maybe 20. So worth picking up if you want a nice game to play on the side that has some entertaining, fun features to it.
Fun fact, I actually won that game in a contest, or not really a contest, just like a giveaway. During the Game Awards of 2018, okay. I think.
Okay.
Still haven't ever played it.
Check it out. It's a fun game to play. Like
I've heard it's really good. Yeah, it got really good reviews.
Especially with a Switch, it's perfect to like spend like half an hour or so in it and just continue a little bit, try out a few things, maybe play here an hour, maybe there an hour. It's really well made. Very good game.
Very cool. And that's Switch only, I think, right?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's jump into the news. Unless, do you need a break? We're kind of rolling through this.
I don't need a break. I'm burning in hell anyway.
No breaks here. All right. We have got a few stories that I'm going to run through. First up, this actually happened last Friday. I meant to mention this, but it's been long rumored what Rocksteady has been working on, which are the developers of the Batman Arkham games. And it's kind of bizarre. They just put out in a tweet, they said, Target locked DC Fandom, August 22nd, Suicide Squad game. So this has been rumored that they were making a Suicide Squad game, and it's now confirmed. Any thoughts about these? Did you play the Arkham games?
I did. I really like them to various degrees, but overall, I think all of them are fun. I am looking forward to it. I think we talked about it before when there were rumors about it. That I think I'm interested to see it. I always thought that the general mechanics and the way they set up these games would fit very well with other superheroes as well. And I think it is also the right move to move away then from the Batman franchise and kind of expand it on different characters just to keep it fresh. And I'm excited to see what they do with that in terms of new mechanics. As obviously, if you play as different characters, it might involve different special powers and all of that, which might freshen up the gameplay a little bit. I think by Arkham Knight, it became a little stale and like it was all fine and fun. It was just nothing new anymore. They tried to shoehorn in the Batmobile there, which was fun for like an hour, and then the rest of the 20 hours it was not fun anymore, and you had to do it. So I hope that they come up with a few nice ideas that freshen up the whole genre of their own little bubble. But yeah, could be fun. Could also be just another game.
Yeah. So the rumor is that this is going to be a games as a service game. Some people are thinking this is kind of the.
Do they have a 10-year plan? That is the.
Yeah. But yeah, this is what people are saying. Oh goodness, is kind of the. I went to go adjust my chair and my my arm slipped off of my armchair there. But anyway, this is. I'm okay. This is what people are saying that is their answer to the Avengers game. But I don't know. It doesn't make me too excited to hear that it's going to be a games as a service game.
No, that would be bad. I'm saying it. It would be bad. It would be terrible. It would suck. But maybe that's their goal. Maybe they just want to adjust that to the Suicide Squad film.
Did you play or have you looked into any of the Avengers beta?
I heard it's fun from those that played. That like, it's fun to play, but I'm not interested in it at all. So
I've
it's
heard
just,
very
like,
mixed things about it.
yeah, I think from the get-go I wasn't really excited about it. It never really sounded like something that was overly interesting to me, since it is this kind of a service game, and it never looked that great, and now it looks better, but it's still like, yeah. I mean, I feel like it's one of those games that in my world it exists, but I'm really not tempted to try it out.
Yeah, it's interesting too because so Rocksteady is making the Suicide Squad game, but then apparently there's a I think this is actually confirmed that WB said that they are also working on another Batman game and that will be revealed on August 22nd as well. And it's kind of weird that they are like, I guess, just giving that to a different developer. And so I feel like that could, I don't know, go either way. I don't think they mentioned who the developer is. But what is that, in about a week?
I mean, maybe after having like 4 good to decent Batman games, we now go through the cycle of 15 years of decent Batman games again.
That's the thing. I don't know what they would do with it. Like they've already. It seems like they did a good job with that series.
Battle Royale. I hear that
goodness.
is a fresh idea. A Batman Battle Royale. A Battle Royale.
Battle Royale. Fall Bats.
Maybe it's a Spanish game. A Bat El Royale.
Yeah, well, we'll see. August 22nd, so that's in a little over a week. We'll see what they're going to be announcing there. I'm also curious. I don't think that this would show up there, but there's that rumored Harry Potter game. It's been like rumored for years now. It was leaked a couple of years ago. Like a gameplay video was leaked, and they are WB is the publisher that is rumored to be working on that. And I think Avalanche Studios is the developer that's supposedly working on that. I don't think that would show up during this, but it kind of makes you wonder when it would show up, if it's going to show up at all this year, which it was rumored to, but who knows?
Yeah.
There's all kinds of weird rumors. Speaking of rumors, we've got some details on BioShock 4. So I feel like these BioShock sequels have been kind of running around for a while, but there's a few more details, a few more rumors. There was a job listing. According to the team, the new BioShock will be using the Unreal Engine 4 and will feature a brand new world. From the looks of it, since BioShock 4 will not have Rapture, this won't be a reboot of the franchise, unless, of course, the team wants to reboot it completely with a different world.
So it won't be a reboot unless they decide it will be a reboot.
Yeah, this is just like highly speculative. But
it might be a sequel unless the team decides it's a prequel.
Might be a sequel unless they decide to just make a new IP. I don't know how I feel about this. I mean, I thought BioShock Infinite just wrapped things up perfectly. I was really happy with the way that things were wrapped up with Infinite, especially with the DLC. I think it's very important that you add the DLC into that. But would you be excited for a new BioShock game, especially if it's not made with the original team, Kevin Levine?
Not really. I think it would enter the category of, I'll see how.
I guess it just really depends on what they do with it.
Yeah, like I would need more information. Like just the prospect of a new BioShock game doesn't excite me. But if then further information comes out and gives me a little more, a little better idea of what we can expect, then maybe. I mean, yeah. But like that, just BioShock 4 alone is like,
Yeah.
Don't need it.
That's kind of how I feel. This is probably still years away as well. So I don't know. We'll see.
But will it come out before or after Cyberpunk?
I hope after. Speaking of rumors, we've got another Mass Effect trilogy remaster rumor. I feel like we've been hearing about this all year as well. So this is just a weird story either way, because everybody seemed to be very sure that there is and was going to be a Mass Effect trilogy remaster announcement. But then EA came around and had their EA Play this year. No word at all on Mass Effect. But there has been a Reddit user that was... I know, it starts out with a Reddit user. But there's actually some credible stuff in here. They were on the Game Store website, which is the UK equivalent of GameStop here in the US. And there was a Mass Effect trilogy remaster that showed up on the website, and they were actually able to pre-order the game. The pre-order went through and everything like that. There were a couple of former employees of Game that said that, like, if this showed up, it wouldn't show up by error, like it would actually be a thing. The original date was stated that it was going to be released on September 29th, and now it has updated to October 30th. But EA has still been completely silent on this. It's bizarre that, like, if it is a thing, that they don't acknowledge it. And it's also kind of bizarre that they don't acknowledge it if it isn't a thing. I don't know. First of all, I would be perfectly fine with a remaster, but I don't think that they're going to really do that much with it. I feel
Probably
like it's just
a port.
going to be a port to newer consoles, which is kind of weird again, because we're at the end of the life of these consoles, and so who's really going to buy it on basically a last gen console at this point? I don't know. It's
Maybe
a weird thing.
The only interesting thing about that would be that I would hope that they try to create a little bit of nostalgia and hype for the Mass Effect series to then announce a new Mass Effect. Which I could see. Like, it would make sense to create a very simple port, get Mass Effect back into the news kind of thing, to then maybe next year be like, oh, by the way, next Mass Effect is coming out.
I hear a lot of people, or I've heard a lot of people on podcasts say that, like, oh, it would be so cool if they would, like, remake Mass Effect 1. And yeah, it would be cool, but I can't imagine they would do that. And also, I love Mass Effect 1 the way it is, personally.
Why, though? I feel like it's the thing. And I'm... so, some time ago, I was pretty hard on just remasters and remakes in general. I softened my stance on it a little bit, because I do see the point, obviously, that it's nice to, like, introduce a new generation of players to games that have been out, and it's a good way. But at the same time, I'm always on the team, give me new stuff. Remakes and remasters are great, but give me new stuff.
Yeah.
I want new stories. Especially when you can easily access the original game. And yes, while Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 have aged, they are available on Origin. Everyone with a PC can play them still.
Can't get them on current gen consoles, though. I mean, you can do it through backwards compatibility with Xbox, but not PS4.
Yes, that would be a good for a port, fine. But, like, I wouldn't need a remake extra for that. Give me a port.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like we should get way more just simple ports on current gen and new gens. For an older game, I'm totally fine with that, as long as you then give me new stuff. I get, like, a remakes of games that are so old that they are not even running.
Yeah, wait 20 years and then remake Mass Effect.
Like, I would love that. That is fantastic. But it, like, games that are 10 years old, 5 years old that look like I don't need a remastered for Last of Us or another Skyrim remastered. I don't need that.
Oh, you're
Give
gonna
me
get
just a
another
game.
Skyrim remaster.
We get a Skyrim for our smart fridge, but but just give me simple ports so I can play the game, and then give me a new story, and put your resources in that.
Yeah.
And honestly, if I had to choose between missing out on an old game that everyone loves that I will never get to play because it's not available on current console, but actually putting the resources into a new game that is on the same quality level, give me the new game. I'm willing to jump into a franchise blindly if it is a good game, rather than getting the same story rechewed and spit out over and over again. Because we will get to the point where we get a remaster of games, and that will happen probably during the next generation of consoles, and I'm not willing to do that. I don't want to.
Wait, we've already done that.
What?
The game that you played that you hated on PS4.
Oh, Shadow of the Colossus?
Yeah. Because the original game was on PS2, and then they remastered it for PS3, and then I guess you could kind of say it's like a remake for PS4.
Yeah. See, that will then happen way more often. We will get like a Final Fantasy VII remake. We will get Last of Us 3 times remastered and remade and done over again.
Wait.
And then we will...
Wait, what comes first? The end of Final Fantasy VII Remake or the remaster of Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 1?
You know the answer in your heart, and I don't have to tell you what it is. You know exactly what will happen first. You will get a remaster of the Final Fantasy Remake Episode 1, Part B, before you get the end of Final Fantasy
You know they're
VII.
going to do it because, you know they're going to do that because, next gen's going to come around. They're going to be like, hey, you want to play Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 1 remaster on PS5?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, my goodness. Well, you know what? We know when we're going to be able to play the Xbox One X now. Or, sorry, Xbox Series X. At least we know the month.
Wow.
They continue to drip feed this. I mean, like, they are just turning on the faucet as slow as they can and just dripping out just a little tiny bit of information. So Xbox put out a press release saying that the Xbox Series X launches this November with thousands of games spanning 4 generations. Bad news is there's not any new games. So the big story this week, I would say this is probably the biggest story. Halo Infinite was officially delayed to 2021.
That's a shocker after we've seen that trailer.
It is kind of a shock to me because, like all these games have been getting delayed, but Halo was like the one game that they were like full speed ahead. Like this is going to be a launch title, and they came out and they said, we've made the difficult decision to shift our release to 2021 to ensure the team has adequate time to deliver a Halo game experience that meets our vision. I mean, I was never super excited for Halo in the beginning. I've never really been a big Halo fan, but this is just bizarre to me because this console launch just seems completely pointless. Like there's nothing on it.
Well,
like what you can play? I guess you can play Mass Effect on the Series X with backwards compatibility.
Yeah, you got a Mass Effect remake.
Right. I don't think there's any first-party games that are launching with this thing. I really don't understand why they don't just push back the release of the console. I mean, I get that like they're in competition with Sony. I don't know. Do you think they would? Like,
generally speaking, no, but how things work right now.
It just seems so pointless. Like, I don't understand who is going to buy this. Who is going to buy the Series X? Like, I'm sure there's going to be, the hardcore Xbox fans that are just going to buy anything. But there just
very
seems
rich people who don't care if they
it
spend
just seems
money.
completely pointless to buy this console. And I wish that there was a reason. Like, I wish that there was a reason for me to be excited about the Series
Maybe
X.
if you
But
need another surface area in your room to put down your mug or so, and you don't want to buy you need another side table, but you also are a gamer, so you might as well buy the Xbox.
it's bizarre to me. It's really bizarre. Apparently, there's going to be another Xbox State of Play. That's Sony's thing. I can't keep up with all these names that they call their stuff. There's going to be another thing this month that supposedly is going to have more information.
It will have more information, just not much.
They're going to give us the week that it's launching in.
It's second half of November.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the middle of November. Did they say which November?
They did say November 2020.
Okay. Just making sure.
We have another big game that has been delayed. Vampire Masquerade Bloodlines 2 has officially been delayed.
That was not a surprise.
Again.
I mean, we haven't heard about that game for a month now.
Yeah.
So
that still had.
It was supposed to come out in spring, I think. That was like the early goal. That we haven't heard anything for a month. Now summer is almost over. So, shocker, it got delayed. So I'm not really surprised or upset at that. I assumed that. I was more looking forward to any update. So we got an update.
Yeah, I hope that game is going to be good.
Absolutely.
I don't know. Not a whole lot to say about it. It just, I don't know. It does blow me away that, like, how did they think that game was going to come out in the first quarter of this year? if they've delayed it this far. I don't understand how that stuff works. I don't understand how game development works.
Also, though, is they may be able to finish it earlier, but now with so many games coming out in fall, maybe they decided, well, might as well delay it even further to not be bulked up with cyberpunks of the world.
What is coming out this year, though, besides Cyberpunk? Like, everything else is just being delayed.
The Marvel thing, then we have other things, and maybe a console or two.
Maybe. Sometime in November.
I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, it's weird. Let's see. So there was a little bit of controversy. I want to talk a little bit about this. I don't think I mentioned this to you, but I want to get your take on this. So I don't know if you heard about this, but Control is getting a $40 Ultimate Edition, and they put out a message saying that if you buy this Ultimate Edition, you will get a free upgrade to the Next Gen Edition. Mm-hmm. However, if you bought the original game, even if you bought the Complete Edition that included the DLC and everything like that, you would not be receiving a free upgrade to the Next Gen Edition. So I have two things I want to talk about with this. First of all, it makes no sense that they're doing this. Like, why not just give us a free upgrade to the Next Gen Edition? It seems like you're only setting yourself up for bad press with this. But then the other thing is, and this is so much, there's so much in this that we just don't know, like how Xbox One games are going to run on the Series X and how PS4 games are going to run on the PS5. But we do know that they both have backwards compatibility. So if you bought Control, like, it's going to work on the PS5. So, I mean, you're basically getting, a next-gen version. It's just the old version, but it's going to run just fine. And it may even run better. It may look better. It may be a higher resolution. But this is just on Sony for just not telling us any of this stuff, as well as Microsoft not telling us how the backwards compatibility is working. I just don't understand any of this. Like, it makes no sense to me why they don't just say, hey, yeah, we're just going to give you a free version, even if it was like just the backwards compatibility version. Like, they don't have to do anything to port these games over. They just are supposed to, just work natively. So they could just say, like, hey, yeah, we're gonna give you the new version, even if it's basically the same thing, and maybe it just runs a little bit better because it's a more powerful machine, or looks a little
Do
bit
you
better
think
because it's a higher
since,
resolution.
since Cyberpunk, they announced that you will, if you buy Cyberpunk for the current gen, you will be getting Cyberpunk for the next gen for free. Do you think it might be the backwards compatible, will be kind of a almost
It's a
like a
hard word.
game-to-game thing? Yeah, almost like a game-to-game thing where if the developers decide they don't want that you won't get it. That is basically like that. We are now finding out on the PS4 side that if the developers decide instead of giving you free access, they want to give you the ultimate versions or upgraded versions separately.
Oh, you
There
think they
won't
would
be.
like block you from playing? I
Yeah,
don't think so. That would be like super shady conspiracy theories going on there. Um, yeah, I don't think so. I think
or maybe it will be a thing where you will be able to play the hard disk version, but those previous versions won't be in the PS Store. Like maybe that is what they mean by backwards compatibility, that you can play the discs, but that, for example,
well, see,
Control
that's what we don't
only
know. That's
be in
what's so frustrating with this, and that's
because then I can see that when you like obviously if you don't have it on your hard drive on the PS5, you would have to download it, and the only way to download it would be then the PS5 version, which would then probably cost another $60, or use your disc, which not even every console will have a drive. So that is probably actually, now that I think about it, what is happening. That the backwards compatibility will work for your discs, but that you will only have access to at least a certain amount of old games in the actual
I
PS4 store.
really hope that they don't do that. That would just be really scummy because I mean, I have so
Oh,
many digital only versions
with
of
it.
games. But no, I don't think they're going to do that. Because I mean, I don't know. That's the thing. I just wish Sony would clarify this because they haven't said how backwards compatibility is going to work. Like I'm sure that it's going to work just fine. You just stick your disc in there and it'll, run just fine because it's the same architecture. But what everyone is asking about is how it works as far as digital games. I'm assuming that they're just going to have a new store that you will, just have all the games on there, and you'll have PS4. It'll just have a logo for PS4. Say, hey, this is a PS4 game. Maybe they'll put like PS4 or PS5 enhancements or something like that, like they do with the PS4 Pro. But even if they don't, like I'm perfectly fine as long as I can play the game, even if it's in the original
I like your
resolution. And you think what?
I like your optimism.
I don't think they would do that. I think that would be, I don't know. I mean, they haven't said. Maybe there's a reason that they haven't said.
If they, yeah, exactly. Like, if there is a reason why they haven't fully disclosed how the backwards compatibility works, and I think the reason might be that it is technically backwards compatible to all previous PS4 games if you have a disc of them.
That would just be so scummy, though.
Correct.
I don't think they're gonna do that.
Correct. But I mean, but then you would say, oh, that would be really bad for business. But then you look over to Microsoft, and Microsoft has a console and a controller, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we still won by default.
Yeah. I don't think they're going to do that.
Well, I hope you're right.
Hopefully, we'll know sometime
Maybe
before
we'll never
November. All right, let's see. We got something new this week that I'm going to run through. These are the NPDs. So Matt Piscatello on Twitter is I don't know exactly who he is. I think he owns his own company that basically does analytics on video game sales. And every month he posts a very detailed list of the best-selling games for the previous month, and breaks it down into year-to-date, 12-month period, just for the past month, and then he even breaks it down into like PS4, Switch, Xbox One games. So I thought it would be kind of fun just to run through maybe just like the top 20 selling games of July 2020. So first up, we have you looked at this?
No.
All right, you want to guess what the first one is? The top selling game of
Top
July?
20 of July. Ooh. I mean, we don't have many new releases, so it must be a game, I would say, that is a little more. And so, does it? I may have missed it. Is that all platforms?
All
Like, what are we
platforms.
talking-
Yeah.
All platforms. Okay. Top 20.
I will say it is a game that came out in July.
It is a game that came out in July.
Pretty big game, actually. That came out in July.
And only on 20. I mean, I know that there are probably 3 different versions of Skyrim ahead. So, Paper Mario.
Paper Mario was number 3rd. Or was number 3. This is a PS4 game. PS4 exclusive.
PS4. It's not sashimi, is it?
Ghost of Tsushima, yep.
Really? Only on...
1. Yep, took the number 1 spot. That game sold like crazy.
Oh, number 1. I thought we started 20.
No. I was doing the number 1 slot.
So that is why I was surprised, because I obviously Tsushima would have been my number 1 pick, but
you want to know what the
wouldn't have been my
20th
number
was?
20. Yeah,
Call of Duty Black Ops 3.
that was my pick.
That's kind of bizarre. I mean, Call of Duty always sells well, but Call of Duty Black Ops 3? Yeah, so Ghost of Tsushima was number 1. Number 2 was a Call of Duty game. You want to guess which one?
Call of Duty Black Feet 3.
Modern Warfare. Number 3 was Paper Mario.
Where's GTA 5?
GTA 5 is... It has to be on here.
Somewhere.
I don't actually see it in the top 20.
Then the list is...
The list is flawed. Let's see. Number 4 was Last of Us Part 2. Number 5, Animal Crossing New Horizons. Number 6, Ring Fit Adventure. Number 7, Mortal Kombat 11. That's interesting. Number 8, Mario Kart 8. That game is always on the top 20. Number 9, also always on the top 20, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Number 10, this is a new game, Sword Art Online.
Okay.
Alcazation Lecoris.
Oh, you're an expert.
Nailed that pronunciation. Let's see. Let's just run through the top 20. Number 11, Minecraft PlayStation 4 edition. Number 12, Zelda Breath of the Wild. 13, Rainbow Six Siege. 14, New Super Mario's U Deluxe. Didn't realize that game sold that much. 15, MLB The Show 20. 16, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Nice.
Oh, that's interesting.
17, Need for Speed Heat. 18, Marvel's Spider-Man. Wow, that game is still selling like crazy. 19, Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And wrapping it up with number 20, Call of Duty Black Ops 3.
Isn't it funny that for 10 years, single-player games are supposed to be dead?
Yeah,
and
right.
like Jedi Fallen Order and Spider-Man are just solely single-player, no online features at all. Came out last year or the year before even, and it's like, yeah, it's still selling like fresh bread.
Well, it is, but let's look at the let's look at the 12-month period. So, number 1, Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Number 2, Madden, NFL 20. Oh, number 3 though. Look at that. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Number 4, NBA 2K20. Number 5, Animal Crossing's Crossing New Horizon. Number 6, Last of Us Part 2. 7, FIFA 20. 8, Mario 8 Deluxe. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Number 9, Pokemon Sword. And number 10, Luigi's Mansion 3. That's awesome. Go Luigi's Mansion 3.
Pokemon, Jedi Fallen Order. There was another one, I think. Last of Us. So
Last
4
of
out
Us,
of the
yeah.
top 10
That's not bad.
single player. Yeah.
I mean, I played Call of Duty Modern Warfare with a single player, so I'm counting that as a single player game.
It's a solely single player game.
Yeah. Yeah, those are pretty cool though. They have so many statistics that he puts out. Really interesting to check that out. That's Matt Piscatella on Twitter. Let's see. I think that's about it in the news department. Let's we got a question from Just Possum here. Let me pull this up. Just Possum asks, do you remember a boss that would take you the longest to beat / was the most difficult? One that you disliked or actually liked most? What makes a good boss fight?
So
we got like 3 questions in one.
Yeah. So I will start with what makes a good boss fight to me. I think a good boss fight is not defined by its difficulty, but by both challenging the player's skills that the player has to have learned up until that point. Kind of, you have to utilize what you've learned until then. Obviously, then apply that in a special setting, but also adding something new to the game up until that point. So that for me makes good boss fights, that they stand out, that they challenge you to apply the skills that you should have learned up until then. And also, I like a good boss design. I think they should stand out both in like the way, like the boss arena, and the design of the boss itself also plays in. But I think mostly when you talk about the gameplay, it's about kind of challenging the skills that you should have learned.
Yeah, I think I would mostly agree. I mean, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Like, most of my favorite bosses are going to be from Soft games. I guess I would say what makes a good boss fight? From Soft. They make a good boss fight.
They make some bad ones too.
Yeah, sure, but they make some really good ones.
I will say when first reading the question, 2 boss fights that stood out to me were not from the From Soft realm, but one in terms of a boss that took me the longest. It was the first boss in Yakuza 0. I won't say who, because maybe someone with good taste wants to play it again. But that boss fight took me a long time, partially to my own fault, because I didn't realize I could have bought healing items and that I could have leveled up. So I did it without any healing items and without having leveled up until that point, which made it very, very difficult. But took me a long time, but I finally beat the boss, and it was a great moment. It was a good boss. I think it wouldn't have been as good if I would have had healing items, because then it wouldn't have been that tough. And another boss fight, it's almost a series of boss fights that culminated in a giant boss fight, was in God of War: The Valkyries. Most of them, not all of them, but most of them were very interesting because they challenged you to use your skills. They were very tough but fair.
The Valkyries were such well designed, yeah.
Most of them. There were a couple that I didn't like, but for the most part, they really challenged your skill. But when you died, you knew why you died. You knew that you screwed up, you did something wrong. That is why they got you. That is why I think the final Valkyrie fight is actually excellent, because it is incredibly tough. There's such a little room for error. But at the end of the game, you should also be so familiar with the character and how you move and the skills that you have, that while it's still very, very challenging, it's not unfair. Like you can go through that fight easily, in quotation marks, without even taking damage if you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I think that is why it's so fun to me, and why those fights are not as frustrating to me, because I know why I died. It wasn't like it was my fault. And it was not just a random thing, or it was an attack that is almost unavoidable, or something that is outside of my control, where I feel like it was really the game design that killed me and not my failure. And as long as it's my failure, I'm used to that in life, so I can deal with it. But if it's like some randomness, or and that is what a bad boss fight is, it's minions in boss fights. I hate minions in boss fights. There is not one single minion boss fight that is good. They are at best okay, and most of them are just a nuisance.
When you say minions, do you mean like there's a main boss and there's like a bunch of other little
exactly.
little annoyances that come in?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I think I would echo pretty much just about everything that you said. Like what makes a good boss fight? Definitely a boss that may seem extremely difficult at first, but is mechanically fair. You know, one that you don't just die and you're like, well, that was just stupid. You know, why did I die? It's one that like forces you to learn why you died. It's one that forces you to learn the mechanics. You know, some non FromSoft bosses that I could think of just right off the top. Bayonetta had some really good boss fights that give me the same kind of feeling that a Dark Souls boss gives me, in that like Jean was one of the main ones that I can think of in Bayonetta. And some people may say that this is a bad thing, but so if you haven't ever played Bayonetta, there's this main mechanic called Witch Time in Bayonetta that if you dodge at the exact right time, it'll slow down time and allow you to get a bunch of hits in and do damage to an enemy. And they take that away from you in this boss fight, and you have to kind of like completely relearn how to play the game. And it may be one of the most difficult fights that I've encountered. I really, really struggled on that fight with Jean for a long time, but I did slowly start to learn the fight. Every time I died, I felt like I was learning something new. Also in the same series, though, I don't know if you would really call this a boss fight, but there's a chapter in Bayonetta 3. There's a chapter in Bayonetta that is quite possibly one of the most frustrating and worst sections / bosses in a game I've ever experienced. And it's one where you're riding a rocket and you have to dodge these incoming attacks. And I don't know if it's just the controls that are janky or what it is, but it is just so bad. And I died to it so many times. And the checkpoint system is terrible in that area, because like it's like, I don't know, like a 10 or 15 minute section. And if you go through this section, like almost get to the end and die, it takes you all the way back to the beginning. Some other non-FromSoft games, though, I would actually say Persona 5 had some really, really good boss fights. each
Hollow Knight has some good ones too.
That's a really good one. Each dungeon in Persona 5 had really unique boss fights, and I think that's one of the things that I like and I appreciate about it so much, is that each boss fight was not just like a harder version of the last one. Like it was completely new mechanics and skills that you were having to use to beat those boss fights. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that comes off the top of my head.
I thought the boss fights in Jedi Fallen Order they were different. Like they changed it up. There were some good ones there.
I didn't I didn't love them. I think I was kind of in the minority with that, but yeah, I actually turned that game on easy and just played through it without worrying too much about the combat. I know it's surprising because I like Souls-like combat a lot. Oh shoot, I just had one that I was going to mention the stranger fight in God of War, the first encounter with the stranger. While I don't think it's like an extremely complicated fight or difficult fight, just the presentation of it is maybe one of the coolest boss fights I've ever encountered.
Yeah. It feels very like an anime fight scene.
I wouldn't know. I've never watched any anime. Hey, if anime is that good, then I'm down to watch some anime.
There's some good anime. Yeah. I would also say that I not all of them, but for the most part, I like the way the Spider-Man game approached the boss fights. Obviously, you kind of know what you get, but there with Spider-Man, but they applied that very well. They brought out the strength and weaknesses of known characters and their strength and flaws well into the game, so it was still compelling.
Yeah. Okay, now let's move into FromSoft games because this kind of goes along with the first part of the question. Do you remember a boss that would take you the longest to beat and was the most difficult? But it also kind of goes into the second part with bosses that I loved and hated, because many of the bosses in Souls games I hated initially, but then I learned and I ended up loving. And probably the one that I struggled with the most was Ludwig in the DLC for Bloodborne. And I've told the story many times, but I literally fought him for 17 hours before I beat him. But this is the greatest thing, and one of the reasons why I think this makes such a good boss fight is because I can literally go in and like basically beat him with my eyes closed now, because I learned that fight so well. And it's one of my favorite bosses in all of the Souls games now.
And I think that is what you talked about, or we both talked about before, that once you learn those skills, you have them. And the second time, they may still be difficult, but they are by far not as difficult as the first time. Once you learn the boss in Dark Souls in particular, you can still struggle with some of the bosses, of course, when you play Dark Souls again. But for the most part, you kind of know how to approach them. And you may still die, but you know exactly why you died, because you didn't do the thing that you knew that you had to do. Whereas the first time, it's figuring out, okay, what do I have to do here? What are the attacks? What is the speed? Where can I go? And but it's still fair, because you can trust in the developers that it is fair. Once I figured this out, it's doable. I just need to figure out the way.
Oh, Final Fantasy X had some really good boss fights too. Really fun and unique boss fights. Back to the Souls games though. There's definitely some other, Ornstein and Smo is kind of the first one that comes to mind, that I just thought I was never going to beat them. But now they're like one of my favorite bosses in Dark Souls 1. Artorias, one of my favorite bosses that I also struggled with. I don't even know how many hours. How did you feel about the Freya fight in Dark Souls 3?
Oh,
That was the DLC
the
that she
DLC.
had like three phases.
I thought it was a little much. I mean, I thought it bordered on the kind of difficult for difficulty's sake. In the
Yeah.
end, I feel like it didn't need a uh, third phase really. And the way, and I think one of the issues was that her movement was so fast that it was not really like her movement was not in relation to your character anymore. Where it was just like it was almost you had to be lucky to press to anticipate certain moves, and you had to fight her so many times until you got that one lucky run.
And
Almost felt like
it's one of my annoyances with FromSoft bosses that have multiple phases is that you get the first phase down like no problem.
yeah.
But then when you get to the third phase, like you've fought the first phase 100 times, you fought the second phase maybe 50 times, but then you get to the third phase and like it's just so hard to get to the third phase just to learn it that it
They did a
becomes
better
very
job of that in
frustrating.
Sekiro, I feel like there, felt like the phase progression was fairer, and because you also had multiple lives, so to speak, you it was better to adjust. So I felt like the Genichiro fight on the tower was fun and fair. Also, the final boss was tough, but I felt like, and that also took me a long time to beat him, but it felt still fair, even in the length of the fight. I just feel like most of the Dark Souls boss fights, they are like, and your character is not really set out to have these very very long fights. There's kind of a limit to it, and which is why when you then have multiple phases in the Dark Souls series, it just kind of feels off, and it's hard to put the finger down on what it is, but it's just the balancing seems a little off then.
Yeah, agreed.
Whereas other fights, you may take the same amount of time to beating the boss, but it's felt fair throughout the way.
I'm just looking to see what people are saying in chat. Danny Owen loved the gorilla in Sekiro. That one,
I
even
think
though
that
that,
is a great thing.
even though
I
that
like
was a
that.
multi-phase fight, that was like I don't want to give any spoilers, but that is a fantastic fight, and like everyone's reaction to that fight is just so
Great
enjoyable.
there is that it plays both the phases play completely differently and
Yeah.
require different skills, and I think that is also what makes it so hard, because in the beginning it's hard to adjust. You have like kind of one rhythm going, and then you enter the second phase and it's almost like a completely different boss fight, but once you kind of have that switch in, you get closer and closer to beating the boss, and that's a great boss fight. I really like that one.
And it's just incredible that FromSoft can do this. That how many games in? 1, 2, 3, 4, like 5 or 6 games in, they can still surprise you in a boss fight.
And I think that also has to do with their evolution in gameplay. Because if it would be just kind of like Dark Souls and Dark Souls 3 over and over again,
Yeah.
it wouldn't work as much, because you would have still the same skills at your disposal, and like at some point there's a limit to what you can do. But with introducing Bloodborne, where you have a different combat, just because you have to be more aggressive, you can shoot, and you have different movement, all of a sudden you can adjust your bosses to that and surprise the players. In Sekiro, obviously, even more gameplay differences that you then can play with and can come up with new things. And I think that is a key to them being able to also applying new strategies to their bosses to surprise the player.
How did you feel about the final boss of Sekiro?
I liked it. I thought it was great.
I
think it was super tough.
Yeah.
Took a long time, but I felt it was fair. There were a couple, I think. There was like a very steep learning curve between the very first phase of that fight and the second phase, but I think it was overall four.
I think it was 4 phases. Yeah.
And I think once you like, the biggest jump was from phase 1 to 2, and then it was very tough to get to the third phase. But
Mhm.
I felt like once you got to the third phase, you pretty much had it down that you would at
Yeah.
least get to the fourth phase, or like obviously you can always make mistakes, but once you got the second phase down, like that was the big difficulty spike in that fight.
Yeah, the second phase was definitely the toughest. That boss took me a very, very, very long time. That may have actually been the longest boss that it took me to actually beat.
Yeah, I
Um,
think I even took longer with the other spoiler free, the fire boss, the late game fire boss.
oh, I still have never beat that boss.
Yeah, but and I really didn't like that one either.
Yeah.
I because there I think one of the big issues I had was the hitbox was so all over the place, and I had trouble with the camera as well. So that was an example where like outside mechanics really played in and made the fight tougher than I felt like it had to be, because I felt like I was doing the right thing and I knew what I had to do, but oftentimes I couldn't do it because of kind of outside
That
interference.
that boss feels like a Dark Souls boss that they just stuck in Sekiro.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
And like
um,
it probably would have not been too difficult if you were in the Dark Souls universe and like
yeah, you had
it
a
was
big
playing by
shield.
the Dark Souls rules and
Yeah,
you had
yeah,
shields and stamina management and everything. But
100%. Yeah,
yeah,
no, that's a good point. Yeah,
yeah,
and that's the thing. I think some bosses might be great bosses in different games,
yeah,
but they are then just tough in that in a certain game because they don't really fit in,
hmm,
and because they just overwhelm the player with elements that don't really fit the skills that are at your disposal. And I think that is one thing that, generally speaking, FromSoft is very good at, of balancing, of creating bosses that are within the realm of the skills that you have.
yeah. Yeah, really good question and really good discussion. I would love to know what you guys think. So feel free to let us know in the comment section on YouTube. I think that's the easiest way to get those. So let us know in the comment section on YouTube what you thought was. Well, we kind of have three different questions. Do you remember a boss that would take the longest to beat? Was the most difficult? One that you disliked or actually liked most, and what makes a good boss fight? I really like what makes a good boss fight. That's a really good question.
Yeah, and if you have some interesting answers to that and share your thoughts, we might be able to talk about your replies and your answers, so that in the next episode, and see what you guys came up with.
Absolutely. All right. That's going to bring us to the last segment of the show today, which is our Games of the Generation discussion. We have been collecting for weeks now what we feel are games that had an impact in this generation. Not necessarily the best games, but just games that we want to mention and throw out there. So far, I'll run through the list that we have. We have talked about Dark Souls 3, The Witcher 3, Watch Dogs 1, Fortnite, Rocket League, Persona 5, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, PT, Bloodborne, Red Dead Redemption 2, Spider-Man for PS4, and Hollow Knight. What are we adding today, Akko?
I don't know. I thought about, since we mentioned it a couple of times, let's go with God of War. Very highly acclaimed game, I would say. One of the highest acclaimed game of the generation. A lot of people love that one, and really a new. I think it stood out because it took a very well established franchise in a different direction, both gameplay wise and story wise. And I guess from the setting as well, but kind of applied a lot of new things to an already existing franchise, kind of served as a reboot of the franchise as well. But at the same time, really nailed that transition. It was felt very seamless, and I, as someone who wasn't a fan of the original franchise because I just wasn't a big fan of the style of game it was, not that it wasn't doing the things well, it just wasn't my type of game. But this one now definitely hits more of the spot for me. It had its flaws, as most games have, but overall, I think it, it really did a lot of things very, very well. It was a very polished game that took that new direction to a place that is, I think, more in line with the new audience, while also I feel like not totally alienating the older fan base. Although some obviously preferred the older games, but I think it wasn't too much of a departure for them either. And another standout game from the PS4 crew.
It's bizarre, yeah, that they took such a well established franchise, and I mean, it was a huge risk to do what they did. I feel like it really could have backfired on them if it wasn't done so well. And I pretty much the exact same as you. I was never really into the old ones. I just didn't really like the gameplay. They always just felt a little just not really cheesy, but just, like a game you would play when you're 13 years old or something like that, and think that you're being really edgy. Yeah. But I was always, mildly interested in the franchise, and from the very first reveal of God of War, the way they revealed it just blew me away, and I went into that game knowing absolutely nothing about it. I take that back. I did look up a kind of a synopsis of the previous games, so I knew a little bit of history with the story, but it didn't look at anything of the game. And from the moment that game starts, I could just tell, like, this is going to be something special.
Yeah, and I wonder now that I think about it, that part of the reason why, although it took a completely new direction, but still was able to take a lot of the original fan base with it, was because kind of over time, like, it tells a more mature story. And I wonder if just because the fan base also matured just over time,
they talk about that.
Much of a departure. Yeah.
So they talk about that in kind of the documentary series that Cory Barlog and the team did, that, like, they all grew up making God of War. And, they made the original God of Wars in, like, when they were in college. And so they were just young kids, and they were like, we grew up. Cory Barlog literally had a kid, had a son. That was like a huge influence for him. And yeah, it is not just like one of the greatest games of the generation for me. It may be like one of my favorite games of all time. I mean, I think it's probably in the top 3. It is just a game that just blew me away, like, from start to finish, everything about it. Like, usually there's one thing in a game that, like, kind of stands out, that was like, yeah, it was fantastic, but there was like this one little thing. Like, there's nothing in that game to me that went wrong. It was just perfect in every way.
It was a very fun experience. And another game, I think, that, especially in the beginning, is super tough. But once you learn the mechanic, once you get familiar with it, once you get over that proverbial hump, then it really clicks, and it's like, oh yeah, no, this is great. And
yeah,
one thing that stood out to me in the combat, though, is just the weight of the combat. Like, it was something that we talked about in Hellpoint. We talk a lot about Hellpoint, considering that it's not a standout game, but where there the weight and heaviness was missing, like, God of War had that times 10. Like, you felt every punch thrown, every axe throw, every axe swing. Like, it felt like you were doing something, and they really made the combat very immersive with that.
That's a fantastic point. Yeah, because Dark Souls has really ruined me on my enjoyment of a lot of other combat systems, and God of War is one of the few exceptions that I'm not going to say I like it more than Dark Souls, but I would say it's different and unique enough, but still has, like, the same feelings that I get from playing a Dark Souls like game, of just the risk and reward and mechanics, as far as learning the enemy mechanics and learning the skills that I have. and also the skill tree. I think the skill trees that it has are really well done. There's so many times that you get a game that like the skill tree is like you do 5% more damage, and then the next skill is you do 10% more damage, and it doesn't just do that. Like it's like every skill is one that you want to get, and it's not just like you're just picking the skill because it's like, well, I have these skill points, so I might as well just put it into whatever, you know. But it's like everyone, it's like, oh man, I want all of these. Which one do I pick?
One thing that I would criticize about God of War, or something where I would say that I hope they would improve on that in a sequel, is that I wasn't a fan generally. Like there wasn't enough enemy variety. It was kind of like the same enemies after the first couple levels over and over again, just stronger, and also the repetitiveness of mini bosses. Particularly
the mini bosses is a good thing to bring up. That is maybe like the only thing.
It was like fun the first 2 times, but then when you face the same,
they're all kind of the same thing.
Yeah, they have like a little bit of an extra movement or like one extra attack or so, but it's kind of all the same. And it wasn't bothersome, but it was kind of like, oh, that's a shame, because like you go to a place and oh, there's a mini boss coming, but after a while oh yeah, it will be another troll.
Yeah. Those dragons were cool though. Freeing those dragons.
They were cool, yeah. And I think it's not something that dragged the enjoyment down. It was just something. Oh, that is a part where, if in a sequel, if they put a little more variety in there, that would be one of the things where they could improve upon the first entry.
And it's worth noting that they mentioned in the documentary that they were like, yeah, we know that these are repetitive. We just didn't have time to make them cooler than we wanted to and make them more unique. So that's too bad. But it's just one of those things like where if you give it
good to a little bit of air to improve upon.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if everything would have been perfect, the next game would have been a disappointment either way, because it can't improve on that.
I mean, that it's going to be interesting with God of War 2, because it's like, how do you follow it up?
Yeah. I probably, generally speaking, one thing, the boss fights were for the most part fine, but I think there is room for improvement.
I agree.
If there is something where there's room, then it's the main boss fights.
Yeah,
like we said, the Valkyrie's great, fantastic, and also the cinematography in the boss fights for the most part really good. But the actual mechanics of the boss fights, the actual boss fights, fine, but with room for improvement.
Yeah, fair point. All right, well, let's see. Since we also talked about this one, I'm gonna throw out Sekiro. Game of the generation. FromSoft did it again. They could have just made another Dark Souls game. They could have made another Bloodborne game, but they didn't. They made something completely unique, which was Sekiro. And when I first started it, I was a little unsure about the combat, but it's just so clear to me that they just know what they're doing, and they just know how to make a great combat system. And not just the combat, but just the setting of that game is fantastic. A feudal Japan type setting, and I love how they incorporate like all kinds of lore and kind of not really magic, but like mysticism and things into the game, and not just make it like more of a true story type game like Ghost of Tsushima did. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I just like a little bit more intrigue and mystery and kind of folklore and folktale in a game like that. The environments are just fantastic. The level design is amazing. The bosses, speaking of bosses, fantastic bosses. Yeah, everything about that game I just love. I literally played that game for 14 hours straight the first day, and then I think 12 or 13 hours the next 2 days. And they just continue to be one of my favorite developers of all time, making games that I love.
And it is, I think, and we talked about it before, but it is also because they are willing to take chances with certain things, but are at the same time so comfortable in their own realm that they know they can try something new, but it will also fit. And that obviously also instills confidence in us players, knowing when they announce a new game that might be different, that we say, well, but they know what they're doing. Like if they can jump from gunplay to feudal Japan to kind of dark fantasy, almost seemingly with incorporating new mechanics. Well, I'm not too worried about an Elden Ring. Like, yeah, I'm sure they will figure something cool out with that, and I'm looking forward to it. So I think that is also another strong skill of those developers, that they are able to keep games similar enough that you have them as Souls-like games, but at the same time also mixing things up both in terms of setting and gameplay to keep it fresh and interesting. And I really struggled with Sekiro in the beginning, and to a degree,
I think a lot of
I
Souls
was,
players did.
yeah, and to a degree where I wasn't sure if I would enjoy the game. Because it was like, oh, like that is not just because it was difficult, but I was just struggling with the mechanics. And then I got into it, and you got into a flow, and it was still tough. But I think for me, it really took after that first bull fight, the flaming bull thing.
Oh yeah.
It took me after that where it like really started to click and really getting into a flow. And from then on out, though, I had a great time with it. I have a hard time ranking it in the other Souls games.
Yeah.
Probably not my favorite, but still, I like what they did with it. I had a great time with it.
Agreed. I would love to hear you guys' game of the generations, though. Let us know. Let us know again in the comments what you think. Again, doesn't have to be your favorite game of all time. We're just looking for games that stood out this generation, games that we think are noteworthy. So let us know, and if you do let us know, please do write, why you think it is a game of the generation, why it deserves that, and we will definitely mention it on the show. I think that is going to do it for us today, though. But first, Akko, what's coming up for you?
Tomorrow, I will check out UFC 4 with Luckless. We will do some multiplayer action there. Came out fresh today, the game. Tomorrow we will fight for the Twitch Heavyweight Championship once again. And then I will also continue with Mafia 3 until I'm done with that. I will also continue with Deponia on YouTube. Maybe do some more Noita, maybe do some more Fall Guys. Just seeing where things go. And also hopefully not melting too much.
Hang in there. Winter is coming. Let's see. Yeah, for me, I've got Resident Evil Revelations 2 is going to be starting during the day next week. And then I'm also I'm doing a Dark Souls 1 playthrough at night with a new mod called Daughters of Ash, which is pretty cool, which I'll have more to talk about that next week. And yeah, I think that's gonna pretty much do it for us. You can watch this show live on twitch.tv/how451 every Friday at 2 p.m. And of course, you can find Akko on twitch.tv/the Akko Sambo, right? The Akko Sambo. So we will be live once again next week. Have lots more discussions for you guys. Thank you guys all for being here, and we will see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.